Hey everyone, Caleb with Antique Book Collective, and today I'm getting to you guys with the weekly Work With Me video where I go to a random place on the interweb. At least I don't physically go there, but I go to a random place on the internet where you guys request. I do a little poll, that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to dive right on into that because it's always fun to get to these places. So as you guys can see here, we're on the YouTube channel. As you guys can also see, we are just shy of 400 subscribers, which I think is pretty stinking cool. Eventually we'll make it. I'm excited for when we do because that'll be fun. But as you can see here, we have the poll for the week. It looks like you guys didn't care about either Portland, so I think I'll throw in Portland, Texas next week, potentially. If I do it next week, I don't know. It gets busy around the holidays, you know? But as you guys can see clearly, New Orleans won by a good margin. It was funny, it was tied with Cleveland, Ohio, and then like keep on ticking between the two, but it looks like Cleveland, Ohio finally lost out, but I'll try to remember to put this one in for next week's. It was also interesting that Kona, Hawaii got a vote. Maybe we'll go to that one of these times too, because the Big Island, Hawaii, guys, it's amazing. Beautiful area. I lived on Hilo side for a while, so that's that. It looks like we're doing New Orleans, so I have that all pulled up because why waste time? Because you guys know how slow my internet can be sometimes, so I thought I'd save us all time. So as you guys can see, I have Louisiana pulled up, and as you guys can see down in the corner, it is the 1st right now, 1st of December, which means it's almost Christmas, which means everyone should be listening to Christmas music. If you're not, you're crazy. And I'm not going to go on the record and say that you should listen to Christmas music year-round, but I'm not saying that. Wink. Wink, if you know what I mean. Christmas music is the best. But it looks like the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th is our weekend. I include Fridays on the weekends because a lot of estate sales and Friends of the Library sales start their things on Friday. And in addition to that, Friday just is a fun day, anywho, so it's basically a weekend day because no one ever gets any work done on Friday. I do because I'm a workaholic that has my own business and I'm crazy, but no one else does. So right here we have booksalefinder.com. You guys know I always use this one because I like it, and it looks like it here. We only have one Mansfield. That is a long way away from where we want to go, and I know that because I already looked it up, as you guys can see there. So we're not looking at this one to go to, but I'm going to pull it up just because I did like this one. So this one, it doesn't say how many books there are, but I'm going to point out that it does have records and cassettes. Whenever I have a place that has records and cassettes at the Friends of the Library sale, I normally find that that place will have antique books. And the reason for that is clearly the people donating these things have older things, like cassettes. I know cassettes aren't antiques, but there are some records that are older. They're not quite to the antique level, but they are older. And people that generally have cassettes and records, those people generally will have a few antique books as well, because generally they were alive during the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and generally people that were alive that time were buying books that were from then and earlier, just like people nowadays. We buy books from the 90s and don't think twice about it. They were buying books from the 30s and didn't think twice about it. You know, just 30 years difference. It doesn't seem too far, but if you think about it, it can be pretty far. So that's something that I like to look out for when I'm doing these things. That is a good indicator that you're going to have some pretty nice stuff. In addition to that, it looks like it's a monthly sale. You guys know what I say about these monthly sales. I love them. I looked at the town. It's not too big of a town, which again is something I love because the monthly sales at those smaller towns, guys, they are amazing. And the people, you can't beat small town people, let's be honest. And no, I'm not just saying that because I watched Hallmark once. I'm saying that because I like small town people. They're all nice people. So right here we have the few sales on New Orleans, and we also have it here for estatesales.net and .org. I'm just going to go through them really quick and pull everything up. So this one's already going. Oops. Ad block, you've been updated. Yay. Hate that pop-up. But it's worth it because ad block is the best. But this one here, guys, it's already going, which is pretty interesting. So I think I'm going to be excited about that one because generally when they have the 4-day sales, I've said this in other videos, those 4-day sales, guys, sometimes those are the best ones out there because, like, these people, they know that they have a ton of things to sell, and when they know that they have that much stuff to sell, not only are they more apt to sell it for a better deal, but they also are more apt to have some really cool things, because generally the sales that go on that long, you're not just dealing with someone that lives in a small apartment, you're dealing with someone that has a substantial estate a lot of the times. So that is something that I personally really enjoy for doing estate sales, is the ones that go on several days. And personally for me, I like to show up on the first day, get a lay of the land, talk to the people, sort of get some rapport, you know, buy a few things, be sure to buy a few things if you guys want to do what I'm about to say, but I like to show up the first day, find the good things, and then I show up the last day, I ask for some deals, or I just buy the stuff because generally it's on a really good sale. Like I've been to a lot of places where it's like 75% off for the last day, or at the very minimum 50% off, because otherwise these estate sale companies, they have to like grab all the stuff, throw it in a dumpster, and throwing it in the dumpster, you have to pay for the dumpster, so I'd rather get like 50 cents on the dollar as opposed to have to pay money to get rid of it while I'm working myself to the bone getting these things out. And those people think the same exact way. They run a business, and generally the people running estate sale companies, they're not like 18-year-old dudes that want to just run in circles and lift the heavy things and show off to girls. These are generally like middle-aged people, or at the very minimum I find like normally like high 30s and older, of course. So generally you don't have people that are young and want to do stupid heavy things. They are excited to move whatever they can and get money for whatever they can. And oftentimes I've actually seen them try to get rid of couches and whatnot and those heavier things for free on the last day, because again, those things are so stupid heavy and they take up so much space in the dumpster. And you think about it, if you're filling up a whole roll-off bin is what they call those dumpsters, if you're filling up one of those whole things, a couch is going to take up a lot of that space, which at the end of the day just eats into their bottom line even more. So that's something that you can definitely keep in mind. And again, I like to build up the rapport on the first time. In addition to that, you can like sort of have a long-term relationship with a lot of these estate sale companies, because if you live in an area and you always go to that area for sourcing, they will eventually get to the point to recognize you. So with that said though, let's just dive right on into this. Actually, no, back to this really quick. So I didn't tell you guys early on. So 45 miles is our distance that we have on this one. And then for estatesales.org, it's 50 miles. Yeah, right there. So just to tell you guys right off the bat, we're sticking pretty close to New Orleans for this one. So first one, estate sales. First one of the estate sales, sorry. It's the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, meaning it starts today. It starts at 9, which means it's already ongoing. And honestly, because the whole time change difference, it's been going for a couple of hours. But for me, it's only 11 o'clock here. So let's just look at this though. Got some details, some stuff, and I'm just looking at these things really quick. Guys, creepy dolls, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. If they have creepy dolls, they probably have some old books, some nice antique books, because creepy old dolls is something that people that like those creepy old dolls, they like reading books too. So with all that said, we clearly see these people have a couple books. So I'll hop back on up to this as soon as I finish looking through everything. But I'm just looking through everything a little bit slowly for this one, because again, I like sort of talking about stuff that's not just books, because at the end of the day, not all of us just sell books. Some of us sell some other things. So ornate chests, I've seen some people get some good money on those. Personally, I don't plan on selling them ever because shipping's probably insane, but definitely could be something. I see a lot of rugs. I don't know if I told you guys this story. So there was an estate sale I went to, and it was sort of out in the country, but it was like a more affluent area. So for me, I live in Gresham, but on the west side, that's what we call it, the west side. And the west side is the west side of the Willamette River, which is what Portland is on, and Gresham's on the other side. And those people are all rich and snobby and mean. Sort of joking, sort of not. Whatever. But there's a town towards that area called Oregon City, so it's not quite over there, but bear with me. But then around Oregon City, you have some of the very rich towns like Westland and Lake Oswego. And then like all the sort of rural areas around that, you have a lot of people that are either farming or they're using that land as like their very fancy estate, and they got all these cool things. So my mom and I, back when we were doing the business together, because I brought her on for a little while and she decided she didn't want in anymore, but when we were doing it, we actually went to one of these estates that was sort of a nicer estate. And I use nicer sort of loosely. I mean, it was nicer, but it definitely had not been kept up very well. But the people, you could tell, had been more affluent back in the day, so they had a whole lot of really cool things. And the people at the estate sale wanted, like, they wanted $500 plus your kidney for these things. Like, it was crazy the pricing they were asking, but that's not really the main point. The main point is, back to the rugs, at this particular place, my mom and I went in. We were looking at the books because they posted pictures. You know, it was like, okay, judging off the pictures, I know that the books that they have are in this barn over here. So I started going towards the barn, and then they were like, oh wait, you should go check out this stuff. And it was the stuff just outside of the house. And we're like, okay. And we didn't have anywhere to go, so it was like, why not? So we went on over, and they started trying to sell us a Persian rug and all these other random things. But the Persian rug, I think they wanted like $1,600 for it or something like that. And they're like, but it's such a good deal, da 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 da. And we're like, no, we really don't want one or need one. And they're like, oh, but it's such a good deal, and we have the original receipts, and da 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 da. And it's like, listen, pal, we told you like 5 times we don't want the Persian rug. And yes, it was cool, and from what I've gathered about Persian rugs, yes, it is a pretty good deal that he was trying to do. But at the end of the day, I really didn't have the time, space, or care to get a Persian rug, and I still don't, because definitely not my thing. But with that said, though, back to this, I don't see anything too stinking exciting. I mean, I'm sure you clothing resellers would be more than happy to buy an entire person's lifetime worth of clothes, because there could be some really cool stuff. But I don't see anything that really shouts my name and makes me really think, oh, that's something that you could make a ton of money on for reselling. I'm sure there are a lot of those things, like pillows, throw pillows, I'm sure, but not really the focus of this one. So with that said, I'm just looking at this one shot of the bookshelf. So interestingly enough, actually, this bookshelf does look pretty bare. So I'm curious if the company actually went through first and cleared out some of the more valuable books, or if potentially the family went in and cleared out some of the books, because I mean, it's not often you find a couple shelves that are actually empty on anyone's bookshelf ever. So with that said, that is a little bit of a red flag for me, but I wouldn't say it's the worst thing ever. Based on this, though, I don't see a whole lot of sets of books. I see some encyclopedia sets. Honestly, these look a little bit like the Funk and Wangle encyclopedias, but it definitely could be in Encyclopedia Britannica. Personally, for me, I like the Encyclopedia Britannica more. Those tend to fetch a better price for me, but the Funk and Wangle ones do very well for me, though. So with that said, though, those could definitely be some good ones to pick up, especially if you get a good deal. Here's a set of books here. Honestly, these look a bit like the, I want to say, Kenneth Roberts books. I don't have any of his right now, but the guy that wrote Lydia Bailey, I've talked about that in other videos. That it looks sort of like these, so I'm curious if this person has a set of his books. It definitely could be a different set, but I definitely cannot tell with this particular photo. But then we also have an additional set of books here, and of course here, which would be interesting. But judging from a lot of the books that I see here, none of them look to be too antique-y. However, since we do have some closer up shots, I can look at these as well. This book, it looks sort of antique-y, but based on how sharp the edges are and looking at the coloration of it, just on this photo, I wouldn't say it's too old, most likely. Honestly, I don't even know if it's actually a book. It definitely could be a chest, because look at this, it could be the lock on the chest. So I don't know. Honestly, I would think it should be a book on the bookshelf, especially because it's on top of other books, but I don't know. But speaking about those other books do look like they could be older. I would say 1960s at the absolute newest, but definitely I would think they are likely older. And back to that, though. So I have done another video on New Orleans before. I think it was one of my first Q&A sort of videos that I did for this one. So it could be going into that, because I did talk about this a little bit. But something that I find with New Orleans when I look at that particular area is they have a lot of really, really old, fancy, very nice books at these places. I don't really get a good view on any of the books here, but a lot of the books that I find there are very nice. And something that I find is the longer an area has been inhabited by people that read books, so let's just say New York City is going to have a whole lot of older, nicer old books than something like, for me, out in Portland area, because Portland area, it hasn't been colonized by Western civilization for very long. Like, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, it's been 200 years, as opposed to New York that's been 400 years plus, or as opposed to London, which has been colonized for ever. So I don't remember how many years ago, but when Rome colonized them, you had a whole lot of books come in with the Romans, and a lot of monasteries came in shortly thereafter, and a lot of those books from the monasteries were destroyed at some point because some of the things that happen in British history. But that just is sort of some stuff that you should keep in mind when you're looking for books, is sometimes the best books that you find are the ones that are in areas that are really old, generally, is what I find. So with that said, though, personally, I would think about going to this estate sale, but nothing really screams my name. I think the thing I get most excited about in this entire shelf is this little shelf here with this particular little brown set, but nothing is like, wow, you have to come here, it's amazing, for me at least. So with that said, I'm just hopping on over to this. I'm not exiting out of it just so we can double back should we want to, but with that said, I'm just hopping on over to this one. So got some vintage furniture, got some jewelry. Judging by how the jewelry is, I'm assuming it's just costume jewelry that's not too important. Got someone's legs. If you guys want a pair of legs, I guess those are for sale, but I don't see any books. So with that said, I'm just opening this one up. Sometimes in the garages you will have some like vintage shop books based on like craftsmen or different things for working on your cars. I don't see anything here. I do see a little crib, which is interesting, and looking at those wheels, I would hate to be a baby inside of that thing because that looks like it'd be rickety as everything, man. Be like, ugh. Like 50 years later, you'd still have a little jostling action because you got shook so much. It's crazy. But I don't see anything too exciting. So honestly, I would think that this might have been an estate sale that they have already sold off a lot of stuff. But with that said, I'm just looking at the description. Sometimes they do a description instead of photos. Something I see is silver. I like silver. It definitely is something that you can make good money on, especially if the people don't outwardly know that they have the silver, because you could just be like, hey, I'll buy all this jewelry off of you, and yeah, some of the jewelry's worth something, some of it's worth like very little, but if you're buying a bulk of it, you can definitely get a better deal for the silver and gold you buy, depending on what you want to do. Sometimes it's worth selling the pieces individually, other times it's worth selling it for just scrap. So judging off this though, I definitely don't think I'd go to this one. On to the next estate sale. It looks like we have a lot of estate sales in Metairie, Louisiana. I'm sure I said it wrong. I'm sorry. I did my best, but no photos. But let's just look at this. Since it has girls' clothing, I'm trying to decide for sure what I think about it. Personally, I feel like it could be like this is a family's moving sale as opposed to an estate sale for an elderly person, because generally elderly people, they will have more of the antique books, whereas someone who it's a actual family, generally they don't have as many of the antique books, because most people that have just had kids and just have a little girl, you know, they have books for their little girl that are like 5 years old at the oldest, like the books are. The daughter, of course, could be as well. But like generally the people, once their kids move out and they're empty nesters, I find that those people are more apt to accumulate a lot of the antique books. Of course, that is not to say that people that have little kids don't have antique books, because I know of plenty of people that do. However, I see that is more of the minority than the norm. So with that said, another thing about them having toys definitely makes me think that the children are still living in the house, because a lot of the times you'll get rid of at least a good majority of the toys once the kids get on and get out, because storage is a premium thing for a lot of people. So I don't see anything too exciting about this sale, and again, no photos, so can't really stick around anyways. Looking at this next one, Algiers. Hold up, we got a video. Oh, that's neat. Oh, it's a live video. That's really cool. Looks like they did a walkthrough, and it looks like you can watch the recording. I'm not doing that, but definitely could be something if you guys live in that area. Packed house, that's something I'd love to see, so let me just look back up here. Okay, so Friday, Saturday. I know I've already said this about the 3-day sales, the 4-day sales, but generally if I have a sale that starts on Friday, generally I have a lot of luck at those sales. So the fact that this one starts Friday, I would say is a good indicator that there's some really cool stuff here. Plus the fact they say it's packed is probably a really nice thing as well. Looking at that, nothing too exciting. Some cool collectible things, but nothing that I would say is too insanely valuable. Interesting, they have their American flag with the stars not facing up. Generally, I see the stars facing up when it's folded like that. Looking a little further, though, definitely would say this person was well past their 60s, though, judging on what I'm seeing and the condition it's in, because unfortunately, a lot of the elderly people who pass on for the last few years, they just don't have the health to maintain their property quite as much as they'd like to. I mean, no one likes living in a ratty place, but you can't always take care of it yourself, which is so unfortunate, and it honestly hurts to see. And it chatting with those people, it's also sort of hard to see as well. For me, I love doing the living estate sales, especially when the living estate sale, the person who owns all the things is selling them and you can chat with them. Guys, my favorite thing, I think, is talking to old people, because like they're the nicest people, they're the wisest people, all these sorts of things. And like so many kids my age, they're like, oh, I'm just gonna play my game. It's like, stop, man. You can play your game whenever, but this person right here, like say your grandma, she's not going to be around here forever. And at the end of the day, it's not worth playing your video game on your phone anyways, because you can play your game when you're like 40 years in the future, because the game's going to be really cool by then. Right now, it's not as cool. But end of the day, though, it's really fun chatting with these people, because you can learn so many things, you can glean so many things. And for me, something that I always make sure I do, at least depending on the time and the person, is I like to ask for like basically financial advice, or I like asking about their financial history, that sort of stuff, because for me, I know that part of being successful in life is having enough money, being good enough with your money. And if someone has made it through 80 years of life, they generally have a couple good tips on how to get along. And especially if they're having a estate sale where you have stuff that actually is worth going to, those people generally will have the sort of life that you want to live. So for me, I like chatting with those people. So living estate sales, those are my favorite. But the reason why I say this house does not look as well kept as this person likely would have liked it is, for starters, just like the concrete. The concrete clearly looks like it needed pressure washed. It looks like it hasn't been pressure washed for at least 20 years. Of course, that's a rough estimation, but looking at the grass between the cobbles, again, I would say it's been quite a while since this has had a really deep cleaning, which is something that you can only really do a deep cleaning for when you're like 50 years old and younger. I mean, yes, I'm sure older people do it as well and do very good jobs. In fact, my grandparents, they keep their house immaculate, and they're in their 80s, but that is just something that I normally find is the older the house, the older the couple, the worse off the maintenance can be. Not always, but it definitely can be worse off. So that for me is an indicator that we have some potential really good stuff for the estate sale, and that just is all stuff that you can see from the curb. So as you guys can see, here's the road. You can clearly see that sort of stuff from the road. So going down though, got some creepy dolls. Remember what I say about creepy dolls? We got some books coming. So got some of these cool plates. I see these quite often. The resale value on these can be really high. It can be as low as like, I've seen them as low as like $10, but they definitely can be worth more. This boat, that's actually really cool. Going a little further though, where are those books? I know there's books. So old paintings, I'm sure you guys know there's a lot of money in some paintings. For me, I'm not an expert in that, but I do know this much, so I could do something. Got some old coins. I'm actually opening that up because first off, I like coins, but second off, they're just cool. Judging by the thickness, none of these are like silver ounce bullion coins, but I don't know exactly what any of these are. I'm guessing by some of the designs that they might be foreign coins. I don't know for sure. They could just be tokens as well. I honestly don't know. Going a little further though, don't see any books just yet. See a lot of cookware. Remember what I said about the fancy ceramic dishes? Definitely have a lot of those here, which is dandy. Got the foliage of their yard. Nothing too exciting yet. Got some records, more records. This lady, for some reason, reminds me of that lady from Shark Tank. I want to say Lori? I don't remember for sure. I haven't watched Shark Tank in the longest time. Where are the books? Guys, there have to be books. It's impossible for it not to be. No! Honestly, that's a bummer. I was expecting to see some books here, and honestly, I still expect this place likely has books. I just don't see them here, which is so sad. And yeah, I could honestly watch the live walkthrough thing. I'm not doing that for this video because that's just going to make it incredibly long. But on to this next one, Christmas Wonderland. Ooh, Christmas. That means we can listen to Christmas music, right? So, just a short thing here in a blurry photo labeled Z. But nothing too exciting. It looks like this is more of a, liquidation in-house thing. So for me, that means that the family has already cleared out everything they care about, which means usually you just have the furniture left, because remember what I said earlier, that giant couch that's going to fill up your entire dumpster, you don't really want to transport that. You'd rather sell that or give it away for free. So that's what I'm assuming this is more along the lines of, is just stuff they want to get rid of. So Nothing too valuable, most likely. Unless, of course, if you find a safe under the ground. But that's probably not going to happen. French Quarter. Estate sale, guys, at the French Quarter. If you guys have never been to New Orleans, it's worth going to the New Orleans just for the French Quarter. It's amazing. The food, it's expensive, but it's some of the best food like ever for me. My dad and I, we went there for a business trip. Totally different industry than book selling, so not going to go into that too much, but we actually went there and we were doing all these meetings with all these different companies, and one time we went to this dinner and I was like, hey dad, there's this place that I saw that looked really good and had a big line out the front, so I think we should go there. And we went there and we saw the menus and we're like, oh wow, this is too rich for our blood. And by that time we were both starving. We both had like been nickel and dime and everything, so we're like, let's do one expensive meal. And by expensive meals, I mean, guys, it was like between $30 and $40 per person. It was insane. I've never spent that much on a meal, but guys, my dad and I, it's been, let me just look, I want to say it's been 3-4 years. I don't know how many years. I don't know. I was in high school. Yeah, I actually took a week off from high school to go on a business trip because that's the kind of dude I am. But we went to this place, and we still talk about this place years later. It's weird that I want to say it was just 3 years, but it doesn't feel like it's been 3 years. I feel old now. Wait. Did I graduate 2019 or 2017? I want to say 2017, so 5 years ago. Sorry, guys, math. I don't even keep track of how old I am, much less when I graduated. But, yeah, fun thing, it was the coolest restaurant we've ever been to. We still talk about it because the food was, like, so outstanding. And, like, when we showed up, we just ordered our waters because, like, for me, I like water, and it was also so expensive, so my dad was like, let's not. But we were sitting there, however you want to say it, and they brought out these rolls, and we're like, ooh, rolls. Ate our first one, we're both like, if this is a sign of what their food tastes like, what in the world? Like, it was the best roll either of us have tasted it in our lives. And they had, like, a jalapeno one, they had, like, a couple different kinds, and guys, I don't even have words for how amazing it was. It was like, you take a bite of it, and you're like, okay, I've had good food. My grandma's cooking's amazing. My mom's cooking's amazing. All these things, but it's like, you eat that and you're like, I didn't know food was capable of tasting like this. So, guys, French Quarter, if you ever go, check out at least one restaurant. It's expensive as everything, most likely, and the best ones will be more expensive, but guys, the flavors that you get to have and, like, the satisfaction in your belly of, like, I just ate the best food in the universe. Like, it's worth going to. So that was my little fangirl moment there. Let's just dive right on back into this. Looks like we got some very cool things here that definitely could be worth more. Looks like we have 1 or 2 books, give or take. Got some neat collectible items. It's interesting this is all the photos that we get to see, but I'm just going to expand this. I don't know what these are for sure, but I know I've seen them in other estate sales that I've checked out pictures for. I have never been to an estate sale that has these, so I'm assuming they must be very fancy things, but too rich for my blood, I guess. But here we got some books. None of the books look like they're antiques, but definitely could still be worth buying, especially if you could get them for 25 cents a piece or 50 cents a piece. I would possibly pay $1 a piece for these too. Maybe these couple other ones here that are more vintage, but by and large, I don't like spending a whole lot of money on the newer books just because there's so many of these newer books out there, so it drives down the price. As you guys know, my entire business model depends on the entire buying antique books for dirt cheap and selling them for a lot. So for example, I've had this book next to me for a while because I think it's the coolest book ever, but this little recipe book I paid 50 cents for. It's worth about 50 bucks on eBay. I don't know if I'll sell it anytime soon because it's the coolest book in the universe. Excuse me while I just flip through really quick. I hope I can find it. But it's really funny, this book, guys, because when I opened it up, I was like, okay, yeah, it's just cooking recipes, and I thought it was just cooking recipes. And then one day I looked at a different page, and it was like something totally different. And I was like, what in the world? And then I looked a little bit further, and it was something else totally different. And I was like, this isn't food. And then I ended up looking at the table of contents, all the other things about this book, and it's like a recipe book of not just recipes, but according to the thing, for the home, farm, laboratory, workshop, and every department of the human endeavor. And it's like, you look at this thing and it's got so much really cool info. It's got info on how to make explosives, all these sorts of things, how to refine gold, how to like make all these different paints at home. I mean, it's got like everything, as it says, all departments of the human endeavor. Like, it's got everything, guys, and it's like the coolest book ever. So as I said, though, paid 50 cents, can sell it for $50. That's the sort of thing that I like to look for. So paying $1 for a book that I'm going to sell for $10 just is not as exciting for me. Plus, the info in that book is not nearly as cool as, hey, kids, want to learn how to make Greek fire? You know, like that just, it's a lot more entertaining of info. But yeah, that's that sort of stuff. It looks like we have a Winnie the Pooh doll. So that could definitely have some value as well. I don't know exactly what Pooh dolls sell for, but I do know that they can be collectible, especially if they're older. And open this back up. Judging by this photo of this Winnie the Pooh doll, it definitely does look like one of the older Winnie the Poohs before they sort of did like a relaunch of the Winnie the Pooh ones with the Disney clamshell ones. Those sort of changed how the Winnie the Pooh dolls went. That one looks like it's based more on the books, but I don't see anything that's so exciting I'd want to return to that estate sale or go to that estate sale. So moving on up, cash and checks only for that much. So that for me, I personally like that, but it's not always the best thing if you have only cash or check. For me, I enjoy it because it means that all the other resellers are probably going to avoid it, because a lot of other resellers only deal with debit cards. A lot of people I know only deal with debit cards, but for me, I only deal in cash like 99% of the time. I do some stuff on, I said do again. I do some stuff with my card, but generally I like to be cash only. It's just a lot simpler and harder for the government to track me as I hide in my bunker. But judging by this, I don't see any books. I do see some neat things, but nothing too booky that's antique books. I see some kid books, but I wouldn't expect you to be able to make too much money on this. Here's some books in the background. These could be worth a little bit more, but as you guys saw in the very beginning, enter at your own risk. I've been to a couple of these ones that say enter at your own risk, and yes, there can be some really good things, but by and large, I find that the stuff is not always the most valuable and not always worth the money or risk that you incur by going to these places, especially if you are a little not good at walking and you're apt to fall, because even I fell at a few of these places because the piles of junk are so crazy at some of the hoarder halls, as you might call them. This doesn't look like the worst hoarder place ever. I wouldn't even personally call this person a hoarder, maybe a collector, but not a hoarder. But I've been to a couple hoarder ones, guys. Not worth the risk, because first off, you don't know if there's any needles hidden in these things. But in addition to that, when I went to some of these hoarder places, like, I found some things that were worth more money, but by and large, most of the stuff I saw was not worth very much money whatsoever, because a lot of people that do the hoarding, they're not looking for stuff that's collectible all the time. People that look for collectibles, they're more apt to have stuff that's more valuable because they know what they're looking for, whereas a lot of hoarders, they will buy anything and everything just to add to their dragon stash. You know, they're going to accumulate and accumulate just because that's what they derive comfort from. So it's not always something of valuable. Not always something of value. So with this one, I don't personally think I'd go to it, but you guys definitely could if you guys are in the New Orleans area. So next one up, Great Southern Estate Sales. Since it's got fishing stuff, I am definitely curious. I've seen some really good fisherman books out there that have fetched me some really good money. I've gotten quite a few that aren't worth as much money, but it definitely could be cool. Looks like we got ostrich leather here. That's really cool. Some books. The books look newer though, so not too exciting for me. However, if you guys could buy this entire set of things, it definitely could be worth a good chunk of money. I'm sure the hat is worth the most out of that set, but potentially as a set, it could fetch even more money. Got a cool little knight, Yashka. I've heard of that name before for cameras, so could be worth something. Got some baseball memorabilia. Got a really cool train with shot glasses. That's neat. Is this Popeye? Yeah, Popeye and Olive. Sorry, it got cut off at the top, so I was thrown off. I promise, I know Popeye and Olive. Surprised they don't have Bruno. He's probably somewhere else doing shenanigans. Don't see any more. Oh, as soon as I said I don't see any more books, got some more books. So these are definitely more antique-y ones. I would say between the 1880s and 1940. Because I know a couple of these books. I've seen a couple of these books before, so definitely would check out those books if I was here. I don't know the exact pricing of stuff in New Orleans, but definitely could be worth going to. Got some New Orleans stiffs, which is cool. Definitely does have a value there. A lot of Mardi Gras beads. That's interesting. Going a little further. No, I feel like I have seen this, but I have no idea what it is off the top of my head. A lot of cowboy boots. Some people buy old cowboy boots just for the decorative feel of them, so that's interesting. Creepy maid outfit. Going a little further. No more, but ooh, those are some cool knives. More books. Again, these are mostly just new books. I don't see a whole lot of value in these newer books. Nikon, I do know that camera brand, and Canon. Some people do like the newer cameras over the older ones. Some people collect the older ones just for their value, that sort of stuff. Got some cool chemistry stuff though. Oh, my nerd senses are tingling. This is cool. Personally, if I was coming here, I think I'd pick up all this chemistry stuff just for myself because I think it's dandy. I don't do a whole lot of chemistry right now, but I will in the future with gold refining because I'm doing a gold mine. But nothing too exciting for me just yet. Got some poker chips. That's cool. I might not be a poker player, but I'm pretty sure you're supposed to color code these. Nothing too exciting though besides that. So would this estate sale be worth going to? I would say most likely, especially because that one shelf, this shelf right here that has the antique ones, but nothing that really screams my name and says I have to come here. However, definitely could still be worth going to if we don't see anything cool and if you really have to source. Guys, I don't source every single weekend. In fact, I have not sourced any books for over a month, not only because there haven't been a lot of really nice things around me to pick up, but also just because I've said this in many other videos, I have a giant stack of books still from my giant estate sale that I hit, that I'm still slowly but surely working through. That estate sale's already paid for itself a couple times over, so I'm happy with that. But with that said, you guys don't have to source every single weekend. So with what I've seen so far, I don't know if I personally would go out and do any sourcing if I lived around here. But we definitely could if you had to get new books or if you're just launching your business. So looking at this, just looking, it's weird that there's 2 books on cats. I'm curious if this person was a crazy cat person. If they were a crazy cat person, that does bring down the value of the books, because not because cats are terrible. Well, actually, cats are terrible. Cats are evil. Dogs are the best. Cough, cough. But because allergies, a lot of people that love books have allergies, and even people that don't have allergies do not like the smell of cats, especially when you have a crazy cat person that has 1,000,005 cats inside of a small apartment, because it's just an overwhelming smell. And especially if they don't keep up with the litter box, or they don't have a litter box. I know plenty of cat people that don't have litter boxes and they just let their cat do its shenanigans everywhere, if you know what I mean. Terrible. It burns your eyes out. And it is really hard to get scents out of books. There are a lot of ways to do it. I think I have had a couple videos come out, and I know I'm going to have more coming out in the future, but there are ways to get scents out of books, but it is not always worth the time. It can take a long time to get the smell out of some books. So that is a red flag for me, seeing all the cat stuff. But I haven't seen anything else that really screams crazy cat lady to me. And of course, there's also crazy cat dudes, but crazy cat lady is the common phrase that people use. So with that said, though, I don't see any really valuable books there that really scream out to me. These looks like 5 books. Could be interesting. This one could be interesting. So there are some vintage books, but I don't see any antiques. For me, I do sell vintage books. I even sell new books, but that's just some stuff that I do. Looks like we have some enameled pots and pans, which are great for camping. People do buy these secondhand. There is a market for that because a lot of people want to buy them secondhand, because stinking if you guys are buying these things brand new, oi! And especially if you go into like something like Sportsman Warehouse or Bass Pro and all those ones like that, Cabela's, there we go, that's the name I'm trying to remember. If you go to those, like, you might pay like $40 for one of these stupid pots, whereas if you're buying it secondhand, you might pay $5. So there is a huge demand for those sorts of things. So that definitely could be worth going to. Executive Deck Big Dealers. I feel like I've heard of this book before. Don't know exactly what it's worth, but definitely would look at it if I was going here. Okay, I'm opening that up. That's a really cool plate. Again, though, the ceramic dishes definitely can be worth a good amount, good chunk of money. Some more vintage books. Again, I don't see any antiques, but that definitely doesn't mean it's not worth going to this estate sale. That's cool. Honestly, guys, if you see a whole lot of things that are cool and sort of appeal to you, it can be worth going to some of these estate sales, not just to pick up stuff for yourself, but generally people that collect stuff that appeals to you means that those people's interests were similar to yours, which means that odds are if you love books and you love those other things, that means these people might have very well loved books as well. That's something that I found in my own experience. So definitely could be worth going to. Of course, I'm not interested in creepy ceramic dolls, no matter what they are. Even if it's not a doll, but it's a figurine, I think they're all creepy. That's just completely me. I don't know why I think they're so creepy, but that's me. But there are a lot of other things here that do make me suspect that there's some cool stuff at this estate sale. I'm going to exit out of this one, though, because I don't see anything that's really exciting to me, but definitely does not mean there's not something cool here. So on to this next one. A lot of Christmas stuff. Got Walker stuff. Oh, we got knickknacks. Have not seen anything that says it has knickknacks before. That's interesting. Some silverware or cutlery, I guess. It doesn't look like it's silverware. Some old lamps. Those are cool. Sometimes these lamps can be worth a good chunk. My grandpa actually has one of these lamps. This one. Well, had. But some of them can be worth a good chunk of money. It depends on what railroad it worked with, that sort of stuff. Got some giant giant file cabinets. I actually have this file cabinet right over there in front of me. I use it to store books in because it's nice. It's got really nice roller shelves. Gonna get rid of it by the time I move out, but definitely is a nice thing to have if you can get it for free, because I got it for free, or close to it. Got some books. The oldest I'd say is probably from the 60s, so we have vintage books but no antiques, so for me that's not the most exciting thing. I thought this was a metal detector for a second there. But yeah, nothing too exciting at this estate sale, so personally I would not go to this one. Of course, that doesn't mean you guys can't if you live in that area. So on to the final estate sale for estatesales.net. And wow, that was quick. Nothing there, so on to estatesales.org. We already checked out this one on estatesales.net, so on to this one. Looking at the days. Oh, this one's an online estate sale. As I say in the other videos, guys, I don't really like those, and I'm skipping over that because it's an auction. Jewelry for Christmas. And that looks like that's it for this weekend for estate sales, so just gonna click on over, click that, and again, since my thing can take a little bit long to load up, I'm just doing all these right now just to save us some time. But let's just look at this. What are we looking at here? Are these all magazines? What in the pigeon? That's a lot of magazines. I know a lot of people make a lot of money with magazines. As I've said in another video, I hate selling them with a burning passion. Doesn't mean I won't ever sell them, but it's not worth the struggle for me. And the people that buy magazines, they always are like, can I buy them for 50 cents and free shipping? And it's like, no. If you pay 50 cents, that means I'm in the hole, so no. Got a lot of little golden books. Those can be worth a good chunk of money, especially the older ones. Ones from the past, like, 10 years and less, people don't want for various reasons, but a lot of these do look like the older ones. I actually have like one of the first little golden books somewhere over there, which I thought was pretty cool. I haven't checked the price on that one, but definitely could be worth a good chunk of money. Some antique books though, so I would personally go to this estate sale if it's in person. I don't remember if it's in person. Consignment warehouse, so yeah, it's a warehouse, so most likely in person. But yeah, I think I'd check out this one if I was in the area. Of course, I'm not flying out to New Orleans for this because that's not worth my time, but if you guys are in the area, it could be worth going to this warehouse thing. Got some rings. Since it's all like this, I'm assuming they're going to charge full price or close to full price, but definitely could be worth checking out. I do know of some places that sell old jewelry for close to spot price, and potentially that could be a good way to stack if you guys are into stacking. For me, I haven't done that, don't plan on doing that, but it could be something for you guys. So got online stuff, got a cool antique gem roller organ. That's interesting. Wonder if the reason why it's gems is because gems don't wear down. Interesting. Vases, I'm assuming there's not going to be any books, but I'm going anyways. Yep, no books. And another online estate sale. It's funny that we're looking at a mirror, or is this a picture? I think it's a picture. That's weird. Don't think I'd pay money for that. Nothing there, and another online one, I believe. Jewelry. Since it's all jewelry, I'm assuming it's all going to be expensive. So yeah, all expensive stuff. So not talking about that one. So yeah, it looks like we ended up with just a couple spots that were even sort of worth going to, which is a bit of a bummer. Looks like we just have 2 spots. So personally, if I lived in this area, I would not go out and shop this weekend, unless of course if I was hitting this one spot. So if you guys live in the area, this one I would personally go to, because while it doesn't have all the antique books that I'd be really interested in, it does have enough of a volume of books that it definitely could have some cool things. So if I was going, I'd go to this one. I remember that one shelf did have some cool things on this one, but honestly, I don't know if I'd go shopping around this weekend for any estate sales regardless, because it just didn't really seem to have the really cool vibe of, wow, these things are worth a ton of money. Like, honestly, I would not be surprised if you could make $1,000 profit off of this bookshelf, but for me, that's a lot of books that I'd have to list to make that 1,000. Of course, this set of encyclopedias could be worth 200. This one here could be worth just under 200, and this one could be worth 200. So that makes up for a lot of your money. So if you guys want, like, and then this set probably is worth like 50 to 60 bucks. If you guys, of course, price like me, I price a little bit lower. So, like, yes, you could definitely make some good money, especially with these books right here. But the rest of them, you would end up listing a whole lot of books separately, selling them all separately, and having the lower profit margins on those, because a lot of these books would probably sell for an average of, say, $15, $20, $25. So, like, for me, I'm not as excited about that. I know I've said in other videos that I've changed my business model. In fact, you guys can see here that a lot of my shelf is cleared out. Not guaranteeing it's going to stay cleared out, because the person that bought these hasn't paid yet, and I don't know if they will pay. But I have had a lot of revenue moving, a lot of stuff moving, and it's because I was cutting my profits and buying a whole lot of easier to move items that are not worth nearly as much as what I normally like. However, at the end of the day, guys, it's definitely not my thing to be listing books that are worth $8 when I am a guy who's used to listing books that are worth $80, you know? It's like it's sort of a bummer to be like, oh wow, this book is 200 years old and not worth very much. This makes me sad, because again, for me, I am used to having my average sales price be $70, and because I've changed my business model to reflect the fact that we're going into a recession, I've had my average sales price cut down to $35 right now, and $35 is a little bit less than my average of $75, $70, depending on the day. And it is a little bit of a bummer. Luckily, because I made that change, my profits have not changed. In fact, my profits, I want to say, are exactly the same, or maybe a little bit higher, because I'm putting so much more time in. But at the end of the day, guys, for me, I just do not like listing books. I don't derive joy from listing books. I derive joy from buying the antique books, finding these really cool antique books, saving them from the dump. For me, the listing fact, it's just like, well, I'm going to hate myself, but I'm going to list 50 books today. And at the end of the day, I only list like 30, because I have 5,500 other things to do, because I'm busy. I got other businesses going, you know. I got a YouTube channel to keep track of, that sort of stuff. So at the end of the day, though, guys, it was a little bit of a bummer that we didn't see anything really fantastic at this sale. I just threw in fan-stinking-tastic for those of you that like that word. But there definitely are some cooler things, like the one estate sale that had the giant shelf, one wall to the other. So that one definitely could be worth going to. There was that one estate sale that had the little shelf about yay big with the antique books that I said were from the 1880s to 1940. That shelf could definitely get you $200, I'd say. Which is pretty impressive. But at the end of the day, most of the books that we saw, which I was surprised about, most of the books we saw, though, were newer books. So because they were mostly newer books, the value is just not quite there. It's a bit of a bummer. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes there's weekends that you don't find anything cool. For me, I have that happen a whole lot sometimes. Like, it seems to go in spurts for me personally. Like, sometimes it's like, wow, I have like 8 weekends in a row that I bought like 1,000 books. And then other times it's like, I haven't gone shopping for a while. am I even in business? It's funny, like it just goes like that sometimes. So for me, that's why I personally travel so far for where I buy my books. As I've said, I live in the Portland area, but I have driven all the way up to just shy of Seattle. I don't like driving in Seattle, so I won't drive to Seattle, but just shy of it. Lakewood is where I drove, and then I drove all the way down to Reading, and I drove all the way over to Milton Freewater area. So I mean, that's a big arc that I have gone in, and the reason for that is just because around me, sometimes I do have those droughts of really cool estate sales of really cool items. Sometimes there is that drought of stuff that's worth buying, so I do travel out to buy cool books that are further out sometimes. Personally, I like buying as many books as I can near me, just for the ease of it, but there definitely are times and places where I do have to travel out because there just is not the good quantity or quality of estate sales near me. So with all that said and done though, guys, thank you for watching. If you guys would like to see some more stuff, be sure to check out one of my other videos. Be sure to subscribe, and if you guys haven't hit it yet, there's a bell icon down there. The reason why I say that is it will actually help you guys see when my next video comes out, and it also will help you see when I do the next poll. That way you can make sure that your vote counts in the next poll to see where we want to go for the next week for me to scout out estate sales for you. So with all that said and done, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.